In a moment, we will be joining the singing of our opening hymn, number 539, O Day of Peace. This will be immediately followed by our time of remembrance. Michael Deverell will be reading in Flanders Fields. Fred Sneyd will share a story from our memorial window. And this will be followed by the last post, a time of silence, the Reveille, and the singing of O Canada. So this will all proceed unannounced following our opening hymn. Please stand as you are able to sing O Day of Peace, verses 1 and 2.
In Flanders Fields. In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard, amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved. And now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe to you. From failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
The dictionary definition of a memorial is something that serves to preserve the memory of a person or event. Certainly, the memorial window in Calvary Baptist Church does this. And if we look at it closely, we can find a number of events that happened very close to many of the fragments of glass which make up that window. Today I'm choosing a piece of glass that takes us to the area around what is now the road from Caen to Falaise. And we're looking here at the Bretteville Canadian War Cemetery. In this cemetery, we find 2,793 graves of Canadian soldiers who lost their lives in battle close to this cemetery. We want to look at one headstone in particular today, that of Major W.S. McPherson of the Algonquin Regiment. The headstone reads, "The Algonquin Regiment, the 10th of August, age 34 years, 1944. And what I'd like you to do is come back with me to August the 7th, 1944, and listen to what actually happened at that time, as it has been recorded. And I quote, "For the Algonquin Regiment, the first day of operations was one of slow advances and great monotony. The men boarded armored half-tracks before midnight on the 7th of August, and shortly the column headed south. By dawn, the column had advanced 3 kilometers and halted north of Ifs. They remained in this location most of the 8th of August, and it was here that the unit witnessed American bombers hitting targets behind them. Major L.C. Monk, the commander of B Company, recalled, 'What a situation to see your people bombed by your own people without being able to do anything about it. It was a grim thing to witness just before going into battle.' Their advance continued at 1700 hours that day. Major W. McPherson and the Algonquins slowly passed through the village of Rocancourt, which was still being cleared by the Canadian infantry. The tower of the old stone church remained, but it was surrounded by rubble. They joined with the British Columbia Regiment just as it was getting dark. Very early in the morning of August the 9th, the battled group known as the Worthington Force, formed by the tanks of the British Columbia Regiment and the infantry of the Algonquin Regiment, was ordered to capture Point 195. Unbeknownst to anyone, including the men of the Worthington Force, the battle group lost its way in the early morning darkness and found itself on a different piece of high ground near Point 140, some 6 kilometers northeast of their objective. However, they reported that they had in fact reached their objective. Soon after daybreak, the battle group was heavily attacked by German units in the area. Lieutenant Colonel Worthington, the overall commander of the force, made the fateful decision to stay put and await reinforcements. By late afternoon, it was clear that the end was near for the battle group. Worthington held out hope that relief was imminent and intended to fight to the finish. He had maintained his cool all day and calmly directed the battle. He emerged unscathed from the shell that killed Company Sergeant Major Primo, severely wounded Lieutenant Colonel Hay in the morning, one of his many close calls during the day. His luck ran out approximately 1730 hours that evening. Worthington was dealing with yet another German counterattack and had just visited the Algonquin mortar platoon when a mortar bomb landed at his feet, killing him instantly. Major W. McPherson assumed command of the battle group. He agreed with Major Monk to attempt the extrication of the survivors once darkness fell. German pressure on the position continued to constrict the perimeter, bringing infantry and armor within a couple of 100 meters of the Canadian battle group. At last light, the Germans started to line up to wipe out the remainder of the attacking force that had moved in so boldly that morning. As the Germans swarmed into the position, small groups of men made their escape as best they could. Some reached Allied lines that night, while others returned with harrowing tales after many nights on the run. Worthington Force fought gallantly, but the battle group was destroyed and losses were catastrophic. 240 men killed, wounded, or captured. Unfortunately, the position of the battle group was never relayed to headquarters of the 4th Canadian Armored Brigade, so nobody came to their rescue. But why did I choose to single out Major McPherson's stone from the many memorials in Bretzville Cemetery? Well, at that time, my father was serving as Assistant Senior Chaplain of the 4th Canadian Division, of which the Algonquin Regiment was a part. As I was reading one of his letters written to my mother at that time, I came across this paragraph, and I quote, "One of our biggest shocks is to hear of the deaths of our personal friends. Every day news reaches us of these. We have literally bought our way through this country towards victory. Within a few days after leaving England, many who I knew personally have paid the price. One example will suffice. Wally McPherson, whom I may have mentioned in a letter, was a company commander with the Algonquins. I married him to a Canadian Women's Army Corps officer just 2 weeks before I left England. He was killed as he led his company into action soon after he arrived." The plaque reads, "In memoriam to the soldiers of the 28th Canadian Armored Regiment, British Columbia Regiment, and the Algonquin Regiment, who on the 9th of August 1944, in the surrounding area of Hill 140, gave their lives for freedom."
Please stand.